By May 1948, George C. Marshall was the five-star general who had orchestrated the defeat of Nazi Germany and the architect of the plan rebuilding Western Europe. He was so revered that both Democrats and Republicans had urged him to run for president, making him arguably the most respected man in America. That reputation is what made the secret meeting inside the Oval Office on May 12th so jarring. Marshall was Truman's own Secretary of State and the man he trusted most in the world, yet they were about to engage in a confrontation that would shock everyone in the room. Marshall looked directly at the president and delivered a nuclear ultimatum: if you recognize a Jewish state, and if I were to vote in the election, I would vote against you. This threat came at the worst possible moment for Truman. The British mandate over Palestine was set to expire in exactly 48 hours. The president was caught between two crushing outcomes. If he ignored Marshall, a public resignation from his most trusted advisor would cripple his administration months before an election. But if he followed Marshall's advice, he would have to abandon what he saw as a moral duty to the Jewish people. To Marshall, the Middle East wasn't a matter of religious prophecy or political campaigns. He viewed the region through a cold spreadsheet of global security, where one wrong move could set off a catastrophic chain reaction. The recovery of Western Europe, the plan that bore Marshall's own name, was running on Middle Eastern crude. Alienating the Arab nations meant an immediate embargo, which would paralyze the Western alliance before the Cold War even fully began. Pentagon strategists warrant that recognizing a Jewish state would trigger an immediate invasion by surrounding Arab armies. This would drag tens of thousands of U.S. troops into a bloody desert war at the exact moment they were needed to hold the line against Stalin in Europe. Marshall's ultimate fear was that an angry Arab world would turn to the Soviet Union for weapons and money. This would give Stalin an opening to expand his influence across the entire region. His assessment concluded that a single move in Palestine would push the Middle East into the arms of the Soviet Union, effectively losing the Cold War before it had even started. On the other side of the room sat Clark Clifford. He was a 41-year-old political strategist, and he offered a completely different framework. Clifford's argument was based on Truman's dire political reality. His poll numbers were failing, and he was expected to lose the election. Supporting a Jewish state was a path to political survival, guaranteeing the Jewish American vote in vital swing states like New York and Pennsylvania. Marshall was furious. To a general who had sent young men to die for their country, the idea of sacrificing national security for election votes was a betrayal. He snapped at Clifford, calling it cheap domestic politics. The meeting ended in a high-stakes standoff. It was a clash between a general trying to manage a global security crisis and a politician trying to win an election. The tension broke on May 14th at 6 p.m. In Tel Aviv, David Ben-Gurion officially declared the independence of Israel. Just 11 minutes later, Truman bypassed his own State Department and officially recognized the new nation. He chose the advice of his political strategists over the warnings of his military commanders. Reporters expected Marshall to hand in his resignation and destroy Truman's presidency. But Marshall was a soldier first. He told his staff, "The president made his call. We do not resign, we execute the policy." By refusing to quit, Marshall upheld the principle of civilian control over the military. He proved that the chain of command remained intact, even when the general believed the commander-in-chief was making a strategic mistake. Truman's gamble paid off. He provided a homeland for Holocaust survivors and pulled off a massive political upset to win the 1948 election. Yet, General Marshall's warnings proved remarkably prescient. The declaration was immediately followed by a regional war and the start of decades of conflict that reshaped the Middle East. His specific economic warning came true in 1973, when an oil embargo battered the U.S. economy, exactly as he had predicted 25 years earlier. Truman secured an alliance that has lasted for generations, but the United States became permanently entangled in the regional struggles Marshall had fought to avoid. The confrontation inside the Oval Office decided the birth of a nation and established a permanent historical paradigm where domestic political math overrides military grand strategy.